I want to talk about home defense. I haven't done a home defense video in quite a while, and I think home defense is one of the biggest reasons to own a firearm. You know, your most likely uses for a firearm are concealed carry and home defense. You know, a shit hits the fan scenario, yes, it could possibly happen. Not a bad thing to prepare for. Hopefully you never have to use your firearms defensively, but if you do, it's probably most likely going to be concealed carry or home defense. So it's an important thing to think about. And in fact, when I first bought my very first gun, that was my purpose for it, specifically for home defense. That was before I even started concealed carrying. And so we're going to talk about that today. I've done home defense videos in the past, but my collection has changed since then, and I've got some new ideas about it. So today we're going to talk about 5 guns that I own, that you could own, that I think are perfect for home defense, ending with the one that I think is perfect for home defense. But the first one we're going to talk about here, this is the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, full size, 4¼ inch. And this could be any striker fired gun. It could be a Glock 17, it could be a Glock 19, it could be a Walther PDP, it could be a lot of things, but your favorite striker fired gun. Now, why a pistol? Well, for one thing, this is something that you can just keep by your bedside. I've got like a quick access safe that this sits in by my bedside. This gun has sat in there for years. And honestly, this might be the most likely thing that I would ever actually use in home defense because it's going to be the quickest, easiest one to get to. Now, are there other things that are more effective? Probably yes. And that's why this one is at number 5. But a full-size pistol, if you train with it, if you practice with it, you can get pretty good with it. There are a few things that I think that you need on your pistol for home defense. So you need a light. I think you need a light on any home defense gun because bad things do tend to happen at night. That's usually when criminals are out prowling around, when they might break into your home, and you have to be positively identify your target. You have to know what you are possibly engaging. You can't shoot at something. You don't want to hit somebody that is innocent because you thought they were an intruder. So light, very, very important. Get a good light. I really like the Streamlight TLR ones. This is the HL. Now they have like the HLX, the HPX. They're coming out with better and better lights. Surefire, the X300 series are really good lights as well. Make sure you have a light. And in my opinion, make sure you have a good red dot optic. Now, you know, you can have night sights, tritium sights. Have you ever actually used night sights? Because they're not really all that great in the dark. And once you turn on your light, you don't see that tritium anymore anyway. The one thing that they are good for is being able to see your gun in the night and see, you know, you can see 3 dots and grab it. But an optic you can actually use in the dark and with the light on. So light and an optic and a reliable gun with a full capacity. 17 round magazines in the M&P 2.0 here. A full-size pistol that you could shoot well with a light and an optic, I think, is pretty good for home defense. So next is a short-barreled AR chambered in 223-556, something like this, 10.3 inch Daniel Defense Mark 18 build here, the 11.5 inch, something like that. Short-barreled so that you can maneuver around inside your home easily with it. There's a reason that I don't have a shotgun on this list, and that's because, for one reason, they're very long. There's a lot of reasons, and we'll get into that. But something short and something that you are very confident with, and most people are very confident with the AR platform. It is extremely easy to shoot. This video is sponsored by Venice AI. Do you ever wonder what ChatGPT does with your conversations? We all know that our phones, Alexa, everything like that, listens to our conversations and then advertises to us based on what we say. Well, what else are these things doing with our personal information? They're selling it to third parties, including governments. In fact, the director of the NSA, the former director, is now sitting on the board of ChatGPT, which is why I'm using Venice AI. Venice AI is an AI software. It uses open source software that you don't have to download. It goes straight to your web browser, but the biggest thing is that it's private and permissionless. And so you don't have to worry about them selling your information to anybody else, which is kind of why it's a big deal to me. I like privacy, even though I show everything that I do on a YouTube channel. My daughter, she's 13. She uses AI for all kinds of things these days. She's been writing stories with it. She's been making music with it. It is incredible what you can do with AI. It's a very powerful tool, but keep your privacy while you use it with Venice AI. I like the Pro plan personally. It just gives you a lot more that you can do, and you can get a 20% off on your Pro plan if you sign up using my link. That is venice.ai/sawtoothtactical. Use that code to get 20% off. The code is sawtoothtactical. Back to the Mark 18 here. So if you're going to use a 5.56 223 AR, specifically a short-barreled one, make sure you have a suppressor on it. In my opinion, that is absolutely necessary if you're using it for home defense, because if you light off a bunch of 5.56 rounds out of a short-barreled gun inside your home and you don't have time to put hearing protection on when someone's breaking in, you are gonna be deaf and possibly incapacitated as far as your senses go from the concussion and noise from it. 5.56 is a highly concussive, very loud round, even though it's a pretty small rifle round. Now, there are considerations to be taken as far as for over-penetration purposes. But there's also, lots of studies that show that a lighter round, like a 55 grain 223 5.56, actually will penetrate less than heavier, slower things. But there's conflicting information there. The biggest thing with an AR, though, is it's easier to put those rounds on target to not have to worry about over-penetration. If your rounds hit the target, hit the bad guy, the threat, well, then you don't have to worry about them going through a bunch of walls. Now, of course, you have to be responsible for every round that leaves your gun. And that is something you got to think about, specifically if you live in apartments or have neighbors close by. So out of all these options we're talking about, think about which ones work best for you. But a short AR is nice because it's really easy to move around, and you have multiple points of contact. It's very easy to just shoot well. Most people can pick up an AR, even people that haven't done a whole lot of shooting and training, and shoot one of these pretty well. Especially with a good optic, you just put the dot on the target and squeeze the trigger. And I've got a Geisley SDE trigger in this. It is, it's pretty sweet. I personally don't think that an EOTech, like what's on this, is the right optic for home defense, mainly because of the battery life and the fact that it doesn't have any kind of shake awake or constant on like an aim point. And so the EOTech, unless you're going to turn it on every night before you go to bed, you're going to have to remember to turn it on in a situation. I don't think that's ideal for home defense, but nevertheless, I do think that a short AR is good. Have a red dot optic that does have shake awake or constant on. Have a good light. You don't need all this laser and everything else. This is for shooting under night vision. But a good optic, a good light. You have plenty of capacity with an AR. And that is, you want all the capacity in the world, and you want every advantage possible available to you. A lot of people think that an AR is overkill for home defense. Well, I disagree. I think that I don't want it to be a fair fight. Someone breaks into my house. I want to be able to stop that threat immediately. If not, put the fear of God in them. And an AR like this will absolutely do that. Now for number 3, we're going to talk about another pistol here, and that is a 2011. Not necessarily specifically this 2011, this EAA 2311 Match X. The only reason I say maybe not this one is because I did have some reliability issues before I did all of the upgrades to it. It's been perfectly reliable since the upgrades. Cosent Arms did up this gun and really made it into an incredible gun. But the same reason that I said in AR, where you want to have every advantage possible, well, as far as a pistol goes, it's hard to beat the shootability of a 2011. So for one thing, you get a large capacity. These are 20 round magazines. Fill it with your favorite, defensive hollow points. Again, light, optic, just like I said, with the striker fired pistol. But the thing about a 2011 is just about anybody that picks one up can shoot it immediately better than they can shoot a Glock or a striker fired pistol. These guns are just easy to shoot, and you can put rounds on target very, very quickly and very accurately. I mean, you have just an amazing trigger and a very accurate gun, and it is really easy to do like a bill drill, which is exactly what you want to do in a home defense situation. Put as many rounds on target as fast as possible until the threat is neutralized. And there is no easier pistol, in my opinion, to do that with than a 2011, specifically a comped 2011 like this. Now, again, considerations with the comp, there is, gas, pressure, flame coming out of the top of that barrel. In the middle of the night, there could be an argument that could possibly blind you. I haven't shot this at night enough to know if that's the case. I've heard people say, yes, it is the case. No, it's not. But so maybe a 2011 without a comp then. And honestly, I trust this Springfield Prodigy. I know a lot of people don't, but I do because I've put thousands of rounds through this one, and it's been just as reliable as my M&P, which is known for reliability. No comp, but it still shoots very flat and very fast with an optic and a light and a big capacity, and it's just an easy gun to shoot. And again, you can keep it right on your bedside table, just like with the other pistol, but you have something that almost anybody can shoot better, especially in a stressful situation, half awake, half asleep, whatever. Put the dot on the target and start dumping rounds. The other thing about it, a lot of people don't like a manual safety, but you know what? If you're gonna leave something on your bedside table while you're asleep with a round chambered, might be a good idea to have a safety on it. Just a thought. If you train with it, then it is natural to click that safety off as you present it. To me, that feels very natural. In fact, when I'm shooting like a striker fired gun without a safety, it feels weird not to have it at this point because I like to shoot 2011 so much. So as long as you train with the safety, it's not a bad idea to have a chambered gun with the safety on. Now we're getting up to number 2 and number 1. Number 2 to me is a 9mm PCC. Now, for a long time, that would have been this, the Aero Precision build, the EPC9. This is a direct blowback AR9. With some work, I've gotten it to be perfectly reliable. And the nice thing about a PCC, they're lightweight. They can be very short because 9mm works out of a short barrel. And it doesn't have to be a 9mm PCC. It could be a 10mm, 45 ACP, but a pistol caliber carbine. The advantage that this has over a pistol, again, is just like with the Mark 18 there, more points of contact. Anybody in the world can shoot a rifle. This is a rifle, it's an SBR, so is this one, better than a pistol. You're just more stable with it. And again, light and an optic, put the dot on the target. Now, I don't have a light on my MP5K here. If I was gonna use this as my home defense gun, I would get a different handguard to mount a light. Actually, there's multiple ways you can mount a light on something like this. And I might do that. I was specifically going for a certain aesthetic with this gun. But as I put more rounds through it and it's remained perfectly reliable, this could end up in the home defense rotation. I mean, this can sit next to my bed very easily. The only thing about like the MP5, the safety is not as easy to get to quickly. And there's extended safeties. There's ways to get around that. But A pistol caliber you could suppress really well, put 147 grain hollow points in this, and then it won't matter if you don't remember to put on hearing protection in a, terrifying situation in the middle of the night. I shoot this without ear pro all the time with the Resilient Ramblin' Man on it, and it is totally comfortable and hearing safe. With the aim point, the red dot is always on. I don't have to worry about turning something on like I would with an EOTech. You don't really lose any of the round's capability by having a short barrel, so you can add a suppressor and still have something very easy. I mean, I don't think I own a gun that is, besides a handgun, that is easier to maneuver around my home than this MP5, specifically the MP5K. I could deploy it very quickly, even if it's, boom, the stock comes out, and high capacity. It's reliable with hollow points. It is a fantastic, easy to shoot gun, and with the Liebherr V2 lowers, you could put a super safety in one of these and get the full capability of a subgun, an SMG, with your MP5 or MP5K. And when we talk about putting a lot of rounds into a threat quickly, well, that becomes very easy with something like a super safety. Now, if you just have something like an AR-9, same idea there. Short barrel, suppress. If you don't have ear pro, you're fine. Red dot, light. This actually has the new Noxon flashlights from Modlight. It's about half the price of a regular Modlight, and it's literally exactly the same. Both of these are suppressed SBRs, 2-stamp guns. In fact, all of the guns we're talking about in this video, besides the handguns, are 2-stamp guns, because you want something short and suppressed. Again, because you're probably not going to have ear pro on, and something light and short is just, you want something easy. You don't want to have to struggle with your tool in a home defense situation. You want it to be natural. And these are just very natural and easy to use. Something like this, AR controls. I mean, this is the easiest gun in the world to shoot. And before we talk about number one, we're going to address the elephant in the room. Why no shotgun? I know a lot of people think that a 12 gauge shotgun is the ultimate home defense gun, and I wholeheartedly disagree. Have you shot a 12 gauge shotgun? Because for the people saying that that's the best home defense gun, sometimes I wonder. A 12 gauge shotgun is a lot more difficult to use than any of the guns that we're talking about in this video. It is long. It has a lot of recoil. If it's a semi-auto shotgun, it's probably only reliable with certain rounds. That's what I've found with, unless you have a Benelli M4. And if it's a pump action, well, then you got to have the wherewithal about you to fully pump that next round in each time. And you also have a very low capacity. In my opinion, a shotgun has a lot of drawbacks when it comes to home defense. Waking up groggy in the middle of the night and having to handle a situation, and having a big long thing that you either have to manually pump or that might not cycle your loads, that's going to have a ton of recoil and be harder to get back onto target for follow-up shots. Yes, with a shotgun, you probably only need one shot. They are completely devastating. But if you miss with that first shot, you're going to have a much harder time getting that second shot on target than with any of the guns that we're talking about in this video. Now, the number one, if you've been watching my channel for any period of time, you already know what it is. 300 Blackout suppressed SBR. This is the same 300 Blackout suppressed gun that I've had for a long time, but I've made some upgrades to it that have made it much, much better for home defense. Now, the first upgrade is the suppressor. I built this to be my home defense gun. And when I first put it together, it was a pistol with an SBA 3 brace, and this was my very first suppressor. Before I knew any better, I thought 300 Blackout was going to be quiet, subsonic, no matter which suppressor I chose. And so I got the Whip Machine and Tool Dirty 30. And while I do think that this suppressor is good at certain things, it is not very quiet, even with subsonic ammo. And that was always very disappointing to me, because being my home defense gun, like I've said multiple times in this video, I don't think that you're going to have the time to throw on ear pro when someone is kicking in your door. And so I wanted it to be hearing safe. Well, now I have a much bigger, much more effective suppressor. This is the Otter Creek Labs Polonium 30. And with subsonic 300 blackout, it is perfectly hearing safe. It is a very quiet gun. I don't need ear pro for it. So the suppressor was a big one. I also upgraded the light. To me, a light is very important for home defense. I had a stream light on here, the ProTech HLX. It's a great light. But I constantly had problems with the tail cap. Now, I've replaced that now with a Surefire one. I've fixed that light. But mod light, I trust. I own 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4 mod lights, and all of them work perfectly. They also have a much better remote switch. I use the mod buttons, and I also SBR'd this thing, so no more brace. Now I can run a vertical foregrip on it, which gives me more control over the gun. It feels just better and more natural. I can pull it into my shoulder. It indexes my thumb right where the switch for my light is every time. The stock feels more solid than a brace does. This gun is light, it's short, it's easy to maneuver around, and AR capacity, but you can choose either supersonic or subsonic rounds, or a mixture of both, whatever you think that you need. Now, subs are not as effective as a supersonic round. But you know what? They're still pretty dang effective, and they're not going to blow out your eardrums if you have to use it inside. The Optic. Now, a lot of people are like, a Holosun compared to an EOTech? Well, yes. Obviously, I love my EOTechs, but we already talked about the battery life and the fact that you have to turn them on when you got to use them. This Optic has the same kind of circle dot reticle as an EOTech does. The same big window like an EOTech has, but shake awake. This thing is on as soon as I pick this thing up and move it, always. And so for home defense, sitting next to my bed, I can grab this in the middle of the night, look through the Optic, light up the target, no problem. I put the Optic on a riser, and this one, I haven't even shot this under night vision yet. Most people think risers are only for night vision. Now, I'm sure that I will. But you know what? They're also for just not night vision. Being able to have your head more upright means you're more situationally aware, you have better peripheral vision, and it's just an easier, more comfortable way to shoot. So putting this Optic on the riser actually made a huge difference in this gun. Now, of course, it's got a Geisley trigger and a Radiant safety, just like all of my ARs. This one has the SSP, which is their single stage trigger, which is very fast. Again, lots of rounds on target very quickly. And this gun just exemplifies my theory for home defense, which is every advantage possible. I don't want it to be a fair fight. Someone breaks into my home, they don't get a fair fight. I want it to be as lopsided as possible to protect my family, my life, and my home. Now, another thing people have mentioned is, well, if you have to use that in a defensive situation, that it'll probably get confiscated by law enforcement. Oh well, if it saved my life and my family's life and I lose a gun, I'm okay with that because we're all alive. I would rather use the most effective thing possible, even if I lose it, even if it's a 2-stamp gun that I freaking love and I lose it, if it saved our lives, versus using a high point because it's cheap and I don't care if it gets confiscated, but the thing jams in the heat of the moment and, you know, my family perishes because of that. So that is my theory there. But again, I want to know what you guys use for home defense. Let me know down in the comments. Suppressed SBR, 2-stamp guns, you guys know that I love those. 300 blackout, 9mm or other pistol caliber. 5.56, do you use a pistol of some type, striker fired, 2011 hammer fired? Do you use a 12 gauge shotgun? And am I totally wrong there? I want to know what you guys think. Someone breaks into your home, are you throwing the plate carrier and the nods on? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like. Make sure you subscribed. I really appreciate every one of you guys. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.